Look at this. It's a barbed spike of deer antler, carved smooth by a human hand, and a fishing boat pulled it up off the bottom of the North Sea. Somebody made this. They sat down, shaped it, and used it to hunt. So where was the ground they were sitting on? Rewind to 1931. A trawler is working the sea about 25 miles off the coast of England. It hauls its net up from 120 feet down, and out drops a black, muddy lump. The lump is peat. Bog. The kind of thing that only forms on dry land. The skipper is a fisherman named Pilgrim Lockwood, and he whacks it with his shovel to break it up. And the shovel hits something hard. It rings almost like metal. Inside the peat is that antler point, a hunting harpoon, thousands of years old. Think about what that means. Open sea, miles from any shore, was once dry enough to grow a forest. Dry enough for a person to stand there and carve a spear. And this wasn't a strip of muddy shore. It was a whole country. For thousands of years, it was the beating heart of Europe, and today almost nobody knows it was there. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you three things: a harpoon a fisherman found by accident, a wave 3 stories high, and a map of a country nobody alive has ever seen. So how do we know a country is down there? How did it die, and why does its ending feel like a warning? This is Doggerland. Picture the North Sea today. Now pull the tide back, like lifting a lid. Underneath is green land, hills and rivers and forest, joining Britain straight to Europe. Here's how that's even possible. After the last ice age, so much sea was still locked up in ice that the sea sat about 400 feet lower than it does now. So the shallow floor of the North Sea stood out in the open air. You could have walked from northern England all the way to Denmark and never gotten your feet wet. Britain wasn't an island back then. It was just a corner of the continent. That whole drowned country is what we call Doggerland, and the obvious question is the one this whole video is chasing. If it was really there, where did it go? First, just the size of it. At its biggest, Doggerland was larger than England. A whole nation's worth of land, sitting exactly where ships now sail. But calling it a land bridge does it no favors. It makes you picture a muddy strip you'd hurry across to get somewhere better. It was the opposite of that. Doggerland was some of the richest land for 1,000 miles around. Slow rivers braided across it, past reed lakes and oak forest and wide salt marsh. Two of Europe's great rivers, the ancestors of the Thames and the Rhine, actually met and ran through it. So the estuaries were packed with fish, and eels and huge flocks of birds. Red deer and wild boar moved through the woods. Out on the open plains were aurochs, giant wild cattle taller than a man. For a hunter, this was paradise. And people lived here, not passing through. Stone Age hunter-gatherers just after the Ice Age, in small family bands who called this place home. So now the harpoon makes sense. One of them carved it, sat in a canoe of hollowed-out oak, on a river that is now open sea, and threw it at a fish. They left almost nothing we can hold today. No towns, no metal, barely a scrap of pottery. But they were here in their thousands for thousands of years. For them, this was never a lost world. It was the only world. Hills they knew by name, a river their grandparents had fished, the center of everything. So here's the problem. How do you prove a country existed when the only witnesses have been underwater for 8,000 years? It turns out the proof has been surfacing for a century, one fishing net at a time. Boats trawling a shallow patch called Dogger Bank kept dragging up strange things. Mammoth teeth, rhino bone, deer antler, chunks of worked flint, a whole Ice Age zoo tangled in the nets. The fishermen even had a word for the black peaty lumps that clogged their nets. Moorlog, drowned forest floor. They were hauling up an entire landscape and had no idea. So the harpoon was never a fluke. It was one signal in 100 years of them, sitting ignored in museum drawers. Even the name is a clue. Dogger is an old word for a Dutch fishing boat. The lost land is named after the boats that kept snagging its bones. But bones and tools only prove a place was there. They don't tell you how it died. And the way Doggerland died is where this story turns dark. Because the same melting ice that had uncovered Doggerland was, the whole time, coming back to take it. As the ice kept melting, the sea kept climbing about 1 to 2 meters a century. That's about a meter every single lifetime, slow enough to ignore and relentless enough to win. So this wasn't a flood you run from. It was a coastline that crept. A good fishing spot gone salty, a summer camp your grandfather used now turned to mudflat. Generation by generation, the rivers backed up and the marshes turned to lagoon. The lagoons turned to open sea. The land was being erased from the edges inward. Imagine being told the hills your family has always known will be gone, not in a storm, just slowly, so slowly that no single person ever sees it happen. By around 8,000 years ago, the Great Plain had cracked apart into islands, a shrinking huddle of them in a rising sea. Doggerland was becoming Dogger Island, and the people who stayed crowded onto the best, highest ground that was left, the last big island, which is exactly where the sea was about to do something sudden. So hold that picture. A whole country drowning in slow motion, its last people on its last island. There's one day I've been holding back from you. The day the sea stopped being patient, and I'll get there. But first, meet them on an ordinary morning. Dawn on the last island. Wood smoke off a small fire, a kid chasing a dog along the shingle, nets hung up to dry, the hills still green. A man slides a dugout canoe into calm gray tide, the way his family has for 100 generations, gulls overhead. A good, boring, safe day. They had no maps, no word for what was happening to their world. They only knew the sea sat a little closer each year than it used to. None of them could have known what was coming. Far to the north, off the coast of Norway, the whole edge of the seabed was about to let go. Off the Norwegian coast, a slope of seabed the size of a small country had been piling up for ages, loose, waterlogged, unstable. About 8,000 years ago, it let go. 2,000 cubic kilometers of seabed slid into the deep in one enormous collapse. They call it the Storegga Slide. All that falling seabed shoved the ocean upward. A wall of sea fanned out across the North Sea, heading straight for the islands, straight for the people. On the Shetland Islands, that wave ran up over 20 meters high. 6 stories of sea. On the low shores of Doggerland, it only needed to be 3 or 4. For the family on the last island, there was nowhere higher to run. Just a gray wall on the horizon and a roar. And then the morning was simply gone. And we're not guessing about any of this. Drill into the old coasts of Scotland and England and you hit it. One violent layer of sand flung as far as 50 miles inland. For the people of Doggerland, this was the end of the world. But almost everyone gets the next part wrong. It wasn't quite the end of Doggerland. The old story was a simple one. A giant wave drowned Doggerland in a single afternoon. The truth is slower and honestly sadder. By that morning, Doggerland was already almost gone. Just a few low islands left. So the waves savaged them, but it didn't have a country left to sing. And some of that land held on. Recent mapping suggests pieces of Dogger survived as islands for centuries after the wave, slowly, quietly, going under. So there was never one clean ending. Just a last island, then a last sandbar, then a last rock at low tide, then nothing at all. And as the last of it slipped under, Britain finally let go of Europe. Around 8,000 years ago, it became, for the very first time, an island. A whole country. Its rivers, its hills, its people, filed away under the gray sea. Gone, but it turns out not quite erased. Because here's the part that sounds impossible. We have a map of Doggerland, its rivers, its coasts, its Great Lake, and nobody alive has ever seen the land it shows. The trick is this. Ships drag sensors that fire sound down and listen to the echoes bouncing back, like an X-ray of the buried ground. An archaeologist named Vince Gaffney used it to go hunting for a lost country. Under the mud, the echoes trace it out. Ancient river channels, a line of hills, the shore of a lake bigger than any in Britain today, a whole landscape drawn in sound. And it gets better. In cores of that seabed mud, there's ancient DNA from the oaks, the reeds, the animals, so we can even repaint what grew on a shore that drowned 8,000 years ago. Now every clue snaps together. The harpoon, the mammoth bones, the moor log, the sand layer from the wave, the rivers hiding under the seabed. separate pieces of one lost country, pulled back into the light. So you can stand on a beach in Norfolk, look out at flat gray tide, and know, out there were hills where kids ran, rivers where that harpoon was thrown. But the reason this ghost country really matters isn't just that we found it, it's that it's a rehearsal of something that's happening again. Doggerland didn't drown because its people did anything wrong. It drowned because the sea rose, a little every lifetime until a homeland was gone. And the sea is rising again at our own coasts, at close to that same quiet pace. The people of Doggerland just lived our story first. They left us no monuments, no names, not a single word. Just some tools in the mud, and one quiet lesson. A coastline is a moment, not a fact. Which brings us back to that harpoon. Today it sits in a glass case, in a museum in Norwich. The one thing a whole country handed up to the fisherman who happened to find it. A person carved it on dry land on a good day by a river that is now the open North Sea. Everything else they ever knew is underwater now. Maybe that's the thing about the sea. It doesn't really erase a place. It just files it away and waits for us to learn how to look. And Doggerland is only the biggest of the drowned worlds. The seas are hiding dozens more, and one of them might just hold the oldest human story of all. But that's for next time.